everybody. Ooh, we definitely had a, new moon eclipse and a whole bunch of other things to start off May. The awakening cycle is fervently happening. Wow. It definitely sent me inward. Lots of discomfort in body and other things, but opening and shifting and making me go into parts of me, into beliefs, into different things that haven't served me, but I didn't know I had any other choice. I've also found that a lot of my dreams and desires have died over the last, 3, 4, 5 years. Just like relentless. The universe or the matrix, whatever you want to call it, that's inverted and doing all this stuff was just basically telling me I can't have anything and just trying to guide me into despair, into other things. And all my manifestations got short-circuited and lots of crazy events ended up in my life that I don't think I chose, but were pushed upon me, firstly to test me, so I agreed to some of them, but also to shut me down, to turn me off, to not have my highest awareness, my highest ability. I've felt a lot of things. I put a lot of work into the awakening through sexuality stuff that I teach in the other groups. I took a lot of time working with other people, doing deep healing work in myself. I was trying to set up community. I built a beautiful community space in the basement of my last home, and I was all ready to start teaching, and things like COVID showed up, and it shut me off. It just basically said, nope, you can't go out there, people aren't safe, nobody wanted to be in community, etc. And I kind of turned off. I went into a little ball, and I think a lot of us had to. We had to go into aloneness, into introspection, cocooning, whatever you want to call it. But we're now at a point where we're opening again. We're coming out of that cocoon, we're starting to stick our head out, and we're being asked to, now that we've cleared, we're being asked to figure out what our guiding principles are, our intentions are again, so that we can really start to begin on the journey that we tried already, but we're slowed down on. And I don't know about you, but it basically almost killed me. It shut me down so bad. It tested every fragment of who I was to know whether I was on an ascension path, whether I was a divine human being or somebody that was worthy of having his dreams come true, having abundance, etc. And I questioned that a lot. I know all through the last 2.5+ years, I was always setting an intention every day of pulling in things like abundance and a home that was mine and was owned by me, and relationships and intimacy and new work, new community, new all this kind of stuff. And it was just a solid no, not so much that I chose it or that I wasn't ready. It was like, people can't awaken that fast. People weren't ready, weren't whatever. So it just crushed me. And then it made me, I started to go work in my awakening through sexuality work, and a lot of trauma showed up in the people I worked with, and then it was projected, and it became a big, massive mess of trying to untangle what was mine and what was theirs. And it put me into a healing crisis of trying to do this thing that I felt so beautifully enabled or emerging in my life. I was like this beautiful awakening man and loving and doing what felt right. But at the same time, there was all this messy matrix stuff that was inverted that had twisted everything and said, there's no fucking way you're going to do that. And it turned me from trying to do that work into looking inside and seeing my integrity, and was I working in these roles out of my wound, which I found out later I was not, but it twisted everything that said, no, you can't do that, there's something wrong with you, or bad. And it sent me in this like railing crisis. I spent probably 2 years of my life over the last 4 just feeling I'd done something wrong or something bad. And I went back and looked at it, and I've talked to lots of people about it since, and fuck, the level of integrity that I had was huge. But the dark, the things that were going on said no way. But now I'm at a point where I've been tested in fire, and all those things that told me I was bad, or I should be ashamed, or was guilty, or whatever, it wasn't true. And now I'm sitting and looking at it and just completely remade. I don't know how else to describe it, but the structure, the steel that I'm made of was burned to the ground and melted into a lump, and I got to see how much integrity I had. And there were so many things that were said against me that were really ugly and messy and other things, and I couldn't respond to not one of them. But I didn't. And in the end, I now realize that I couldn't respond to it. It was their issues, it was not mine, and it was being projected, and people could tell what was being projected and what wasn't. And it wasn't about me defending myself, it was about me rising up and staying in confidence and staying in integrity and not trying to play the game and all this kind of stuff. So now I'm sitting with my intentions. It's like my intentions now are so pure. It's just like I want to teach people to come back and enjoy their bliss and their heart and all these things. And a beautiful friend made a post today in Awakening Through Sexuality about how men talk about sex in the locker room and all this kind of stuff, and she was wondering why we did that. And I went down and I dug deep into my soul, and I kind of channeled the response where it's like, men are not even taught about sexuality. Men are not even taught as a rite of passage how to connect with a woman and to worship them or whatever. We're left to just, there's a point once we go into puberty where we stop being little boys around our mothers and other things, and we become a man. We grow hairy and all these things happen, and then there's this, just like, a mother doesn't teach that stuff in most cultures. I'm sure other cultures do, but and dads weren't really taught that stuff. So we go off wandering on how to be a man, how to be in integrity, how to be intimate with a woman. I'm not even talking about sexuality. I'm talking about connecting with her and feeling and holding space and being that rock and all these things that the divine masculine's asking to be now. And they were left on their own to go figure it out from a bunch of other little boys in the locker room and in high school. And we come out of it and we still don't know any better. There are no real male role models for this. A lot of them are around pickup lines and other stuff, which is so hollow. So part of my intention is to build a new example for men and women of how men can be, how men should be in integrity, how they can be a rock, how they can worship a partner, how sacred sexuality is, and how people need to connect and get back to their power and their creation power, which is their sexual energy. And I'm not talking about teaching people how to have sex. I'm talking about teaching people to go back to that central core of their being and their excitement and their turn on and that passion that they feel, and move through the shame and guilt of having that power, having those needs, having those desires, having that need for pleasure and connection and release and all these things. That's a lot of what I'm here to do, is to teach people about these things that make them so uncomfortable or so shamed by religion and other things. And I need to get back to that. I need, who has courage to do this, and who can teach that? And some of my friends are saying, yeah, a man has to be in a place where he can be this rock, show this, reset how sexuality is, teach it, talk about it openly, share it, do healing work for people in it. That's part of who I am. But at the same time, I'm awakening and I'm talking about stuff that's gritty and messy and walking out of the shame of it, of being a man, because this world wants men to be ashamed or be uncomfortable or be the perpetrator or whatever over women. And it's so dementedly backwards. I want to be that man that can be ravishing and powerful and show pleasure and be that rock for women, but I also want to be in my emotions and my ability to connect and my ability to be vulnerable and my ability to hold space for women that so sadly need that and have never experienced that in their whole life. I want to be able to show women how they can be worshipped and talk about it and share that with men and create a new world where none of this is shame and guilt anymore. So going back to intention, what's your intention? What's a thing that you've started in this life and haven't been able to do and got shut down about? So go back to those things, and now's the time and space in this month of May, now's the time and space for us to open to a purpose that maybe we're ashamed and guilted about, or we tried and we fell on our face multiple times before. And at least for me, I'm going to go back and I'm going to be that healer, that person that's talking about awakening through sexuality, talking about this key part of being a human being. And I could give a flying fuck what people think if they're shamed or guilted, because I'm going to talk the truth, not because I want to hurt people or push them into something they're uncomfortable with, but to get back to our creation energy, our passion, our sexual energy, our pleasure, our bliss is key right now. We've had it all stolen and taken and loosed and dissolved to keep us as slaves. And now's the time to reopen to it. Now's the time to normalize people speaking about these things, talking about what their desires are, building relationship agreements where they can explore with people and start talking about things and going through their trauma and go to edges and find who they are, where they're stuck, where it's trapped, what's in their shadow, what's uncomfortable, what's comfortable, what's pleasure, what's passion, what's play. I want to be that gateway for people, that enabler that can build a space where people can go and explore themselves with other people and talk about it and share and find that unabashed powerfulness and that confidence of, here I am, this is who I am, this is what I want, pleasure, sexuality, talking about all the dark things and getting it off our chest so that we can be free is the most important thing that we can all get right now. And I'm not scared anymore. I'm not held back. I'm not hiding. This is the intention. I want to give that gift back to people. Show them ways, build workshops, build playgrounds, build spaces where we can talk about this stuff, bring it all up, and find a safe way to find ourselves with other people that want to find themselves within agreements and communities that allow triggers to come up, to allow traumas to be released, to allow self-exploration and asking for what you want and all these kind of things with other people that want the same thing. And then the magic starts to happen. We get back to that innocence and playfulness of who we are and can start to live a life from our passion, our joy, our freedom, our feeling of freedom, of asking for what we want, of being worshipped, worshiping, etc. This is all part of our birthright as a human being. So what are your intentions? What have you shut down? What's things that you want for this world that can only come through you? that are really important to you, that are maybe been shut down, maybe you've scared you, maybe you've made you feel uncomfortable. Start exploring them. Start restating those intentions. I'm going to state it right here. I want to teach the awakening through sexuality work that I talk about all the time. I want to teach awakening and being light to people so that they can start to get there. We start simple. We start with our basics. But eventually, we have to come back to our normalization of our sexual selves, because most people won't agree with it. And if it scares you or shuts you down or whatever, I encourage you to look at it deeper. But most people are driven by their sexuality. And anybody that tells you that's not isn't really connected to it. There's a lot of what people do. Women dress sexy, put makeup on, get all the nice clothes, all this kind of stuff just so they can be seen as sexy because they want that. And men want the same thing. They want sexuality, but we get in this shame and guilt of religion and other things. We just need to get to the point where we admit that this is part of being human. This is why we came here, was to be human and be physical and feel all the pleasures of physical and do it in a different way. And it's all been ashamed and taken from us. And it's time for that to change. So watch me. I'm going to be talking more on those fronts. If it makes you uncomfortable, ask me questions. It's okay. It's meant to make you feel uncomfortable. We got to get all this stuff. Take the tarps off, take the dirt off, take the muck off, take all the stuff that's keeping us held back and start to really be in our body, in our desire, in our pleasures. And that's my goal, and my intention is to open a space and teach everything I can for people so that they can recover themselves and be free. So what are yours? Put some down in the comments if you want. I'd love to hear it, and people need to know what you're doing. So what's your intention? What's important to you right now? I showed you some of mine. So I love you all. Keep shining, keep opening to that intention, and start digging it up from the earth and get it back on the plate and get that excitement back. And now's the time when it can really grow. So I was born on a Taurus full moon. Congratulations, Hector. I'm sure you're probably feeling the energy pretty off the charts right now. So I hear it's especially strong for those in those. I'm a Gemini, so not as strong in that way, but the push for awakening these last months has been insane. So I love you all. Have a great day. Thank you for watching, Hector and Diane and Bonnie. Those are the only ones that show up on my screen. So talk to you soon. Love you. Bye.